Alrighty, what's up guys, Single Player Nacho here. It's finally here, Resident Evil Village Milkshakes. ALCINA Dimitrescu. The 9'6" Romanian royalty, horrendous, torturous, blood-deficient blood sucker. ALCINA Dimitrescu may be a goddess, but she also has a thing for, mass murder. I completely loved how out of place ALCINA Dimitrescu seemed to be in Resident Evil Village. Everything from the way she walks and talks, her little hand motions, all of this 1950s inspiration yanked out of its timeline. You wouldn't really see that in modern times, and that's because ALCINA is a very, very old woman thing. Appearances are very deceiving. But ALCINA Dimitrescu is far from any standard woman thing you'll ever lay your eyes upon. She is high standard nobility within Romanian royalty. Interesting to note that the Dimitrescu family held high importance for generations. I mean, they owned the castle. But here's the thing, ALCINA was raised away from that castle life and away from that royal bloodline. Possibly to lead a more normal life, although how normal can your life be when you have a simp army behind you at all times? Now, we don't know a lot about the Dimitrescu family, how they led by example, or who they even really were. But one disturbing detail, and I think this characterizes them, the Dimitrescus not only inherited this castle, they continued to be tyrants over the villagers down below. They were not nice people. The Dimitrescus, is that how you say it? Were not angels at all. And judging from the various old torture devices that are found in the cellars and the prison, these contraptions are way older than when ALCINA Dimitrescu ever took over the reins at the castle, meaning they were already there and they were already being used by her very evil family. And that's something I really like about Resident Evil Village, the attention to detail. You take a closer look at those torture devices and there's old rusting bloodstains on them. In 1958, ALCINA decides to return to the castle Dimitrescu, her old royal family. ALCINA arrives to the castle and it is completely empty. Her family's nowhere to be seen. The only thing her family left behind are bones, antiques, paintings, the final remains of the Dimitrescu bloodline. They also left behind a village filled with directionless people. They had no leader during this time, and I have to wonder if the village was more peaceful without a Dimitrescu leader, though more than likely not, because Mother Miranda was already screwing with them. But in comes ALCINA Dimitrescu, and she takes over the castle her family inherited. Her rightful throne, the castle, the village people, all for her to control. And how does she control it? With a tight, violent grip. ALCINA was no different than her already tyrannical, evil family. The villagers continued to be peasants underneath her thumb, her gigantic thumb. Although, when ALCINA first arrived at the castle, she seemed very different than how we see her in Resident Evil Village, looks-wise. She was most likely of average height, a normal-looking rich kid with a boner to torture people. A soothing yet sinister voice caught the attention of ALCINA, and she followed just outside the castle into the naturey ruins, the beautiful mountainous landscapes of Eastern Europe. ALCINA comes across 4 gigantic statues and an altar at the center. She was a little bit amazed at the sight, but I'm thinking that the first thing she probably thought was, how is this gonna get me any more powerful? And then a masked, winged being appears in front of ALCINA. It's Mother Miranda, who promises the tall lady endless, bountiful power, infinite life, infinite cakes, and to become one of the 4 lords of the 4 houses. In exchange, however, ALCINA is to surrender her entire body to become an experiment guinea pig for Mother Miranda. ALCINA, at no more than 5 feet tall, is taken to Mother Miranda's laboratory, and Miranda reveals a disturbing object known as the CADOU, a pulsating, moldy fetus that has the ability to give people extreme, otherworldly powers. ALCINA is implanted with the CADOU in the file known as Experiment Notes. It's Mother Miranda's little log about CADOU experimentations. And there's 3 different test subjects. First one, subject 174, known as Mihai M. Mihai was a 21-year-old male silversmith who apparently suffered from pneumonia. Mother Miranda implants, probably forcefully, Mihai with a CADOU and unfortunately becomes a lichen. And subject 177, Bernadette B. A 21-year-old female, unemployed, no history of illness, and the CADOU experiment resulted in death. That's very interesting in how we're able to figure out what the CADOU looks for inside of people's bodies. Because ALCINA Dimitrescu, subject 181, during her CADOU implant, she is revealed to have a hereditary blood disease. But it's a successful experiment. ALCINA not only comes out alive, she can control the powers that the CADOU gave her. And this made Mother Miranda a very happy maniac. And ALCINA grows and grows and grows to a towering 9'6", or 280 centimeters. ALCINA has rapid regeneration. She loses a body part and it's back in seconds. Retractable claws, sharp enough to cut through any man-thing on Earth. Now, those were the benefits ALCINA received after the CADOU experiment. Both Mother Miranda and the tall woman felt that something was wrong. An uncontrollable thirst for blood, thanks to that hereditary blood disease that happens to be genetic within the Dimitrescu bloodline. So she not only inherited a castle, this was that dirty secret that the Dimitrescu family may have sent ALCINA away for. It just so happens that Mother Miranda exploited that disease, and the CADOU seems to have amplified ALCINA's bloodlust. It's a perfect form of chaos, and a perfect explanation as to why there's so much blood all over the Castle Dimitrescu. The workers within the Castle Dimitrescu start vanishing very quickly. No sign of their bodies, but ALCINA knows where they are. She is entranced with their blood. She needs it to live. This was the beginning of ALCINA's mass murder of the village people. It first started with the castle servants, and then various villagers began disappearing as well. Hordes of them. Less of a royal palace and more of a slaughterhouse. Victims were defaced in the Dimitrescu dungeons. I would assume that it's because ALCINA wanted her blood ripe and raw. It's very gross. I believe ALCINA frightened, startled her victims as most she could to get their blood pumping and make it fresh. The servants probably had it the worst because they were already attached to the castle. They had a form of employment. They had to answer to ALCINA directly. And for the smallest mistakes, you'll see this in ALCINA's gory-ass kitchen, the servants would get taken away and never seen of again. That tyrant blood ran through her veins deeply. It's a nice little play on words in Resident Evil Village because there are no tyrants, but there's a huge one that drains her victims empty. Every single square inch in that castle was soaked with blood, and it brings back Elena's comments about what's inside to full relevance.
My hunch is she's in that old castle.
No, that place is full of nothing but blood and death.
Though she was a vicious and powerful leader, the tall woman couldn't exactly fill every single room inside that gigantic castle. She needed some more efficiency, but more importantly, someone she can trust. Not someone, but a trio of hellish spawn.
Man blood.
ALCINA always wanted to be a mother, sadly. Thanks to her devotion to the goddess of the four houses, Mother Miranda, ALCINA was entrusted with various CADOU that Mother Miranda provided her in order to find suitable hosts to become her daughters. In the file known as treatment candidates, about 16 different maidens are experimented on by ALCINA Dimitrescu herself to become part of the Dimitrescu family. It's very cryptic, but under the rejects column, there are a bunch of names, as opposed to the candidates column. I can only imagine what happened to these poor girls under the rejects column. Many of them were probably just killed by the CADOU implant, though some of them can be found by Ethan in the dungeon, slumming around with swords, axes, as disgusting, underfed creatures known as Moroaika. These are the failed experiments thrown into the dungeons never to see the light of day by anyone. It makes me think that ALCINA definitely has that narcissistic personality, because these poor girls never did anything to anyone. Hell, most of them wanted nothing to do with this whole situation, but they were forced to be created in the image that ALCINA saw herself as. But what she really is a starved creature. But surely enough, 3 successful candidates were born: Bella, Cassandra, and Daniela. The file known as Further Observations gives us an insight as ALCINA overlooked her beautiful creations and how they were born. It states, one day since treatment, the 3 girls have stopped moving. They seem almost dead. But insects begin overtaking their CADOU implanted bodies. In fact, the insects eat their bodies whole, and their carcasses are left behind. ALCINA probably thought at this point that it's a lost cause. The daughters would not be born, but in comes the regeneration, and it's like their bodies are made up entirely of those insects that first ate them. Right away, ALCINA feels a bond because of how Bella, Cassandra, and Daniela look at their mother. This is all very gross. But the Dimitrescu bloodline is officially extended, and her daughters are a clear-cut mirror of ALCINA's lunacy. They take pride in breaking bones and gnawing flesh, finding victims and prey, and bringing them in to their towering mother.
Mother, I bring you fresh prey.
They love making people suffer. In fact, they probably stayed down there in the dungeons more than ALCINA herself. They overlooked operations down below, skinning people alive, stuffing them in barrels, supplying ALCINA with all the blood she needed. Hell, there was so much blood that ALCINA had no idea what to do with it. Until lightbulb moment, she started infusing maiden's blood, distilled it into her own personal wine known as Sanguis Virginis. It's a delicacy. It probably tastes, well, it tastes horrible. So the Dimitrescu family was a very happy, loving, blood-soaked witches/vampires, emo people. Until hand fetish Ethan Winters arrived, the hero to save the day. In many ways, Ethan was the perfect specimen to enter the castle and completely dismantle this grotesque family line. Right off the bat, in Ethan's arrival, ALCINA takes a nice taste of that Winters DNA, and she says a comment that's very interesting. She says,
starting to go a little stale.
This is a testament to how good ALCINA's DNA/blood senses are. She says Ethan is stale because he's basically dead on arrival. He is just mold, his entire body. The tall woman is an expert, and the language that Daniela, Bella, and Cassandra use as they hunt down Ethan, they use that word. It's the hunt for them.
You've ruined the hunt!
Gives you all the explanation you need to know about these people. They are monsters. I mean, it's obvious, but there's nothing else going on here. That's why this is the first house of the four lords. The Dimitrescus are prideful, superiority complex monsters. That's all they really are. And like monsters, they are picked off one by one. Who is to blame? Obviously, the Dimitrescus, because they completely underestimated this real handy guy, Ethan Winters, could possibly ever dent anything within their bodies. They thought themselves as high royals. They possibly could not have been touched in any way by a mere mortal, or so they thought. And it comes down to ALCINA Dimitrescu herself. Her final moments, her final form as well, reveals the demon inside her. Of course, the demon being that CADOU. I think the CADOUs perfectly explain what's really going on with each and every monster. The Dimitrescu daughters have insect abilities, more specifically, they're flies. Maybe because they were starved as servants / candidates. But inside ALCINA, a monstrous, grotesque, dragon-like BOW. That's the monster that she really is on the inside. And it's in full display, and apparently, before Ethan Winters had seen her in this form, only Mother Miranda had seen the dragon within ALCINA. Nevertheless, her reign comes to a screeching halt, and it's all justified. The tall woman had to be put down. Curse you! This was an extremely vile and evil person, a rage-induced ego, and superior views of herself was a formula for further torture and hell, and it all comes to an end eventually. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of ALCINA Dimitrescu's story arc, her entire character. Did you like her involvements? And please, let's chill with the pervy comments. I've made enough during this video. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did. Be sure to subscribe for more Resident Evil Village lore, and for the next lore video of Donna Beneviento. Should be out within a few days of this video, so stay subscribed for more horror lore, mysteries, and lists. Again guys, thank you all so much for all the support. You guys are amazing. Have an awesome rest of your day. And as always, stay single.